Hello and welcome to the Monday Total Soccer Show. I am Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who always brings the high press. It's Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. Only, except when I'm playing against another team with a high press, and then it becomes problematic. Or talking against, I suppose I should say.
So if you're wearing your magic decoder ring, you'll know that we are going to talk a little bit about Liverpool versus Spurs. It finished 2-0 to Liverpool. Really exciting game. We're going to focus on the first 20 minutes because that's where all the goals were, all the action were. We're also going to talk some Americans abroad, Taylor. Top of your head, can you name the Americans abroad we'll be talking about without looking at the chalkboard?
Sure, I can look at my piece of paper that has them. Terrence Boyd, Christian Pulisic, Bobby Wood, and Gideon Zelalem.
DeAndre Yedlin, you missed DeAndre Yedlin.
Of course, yeah.
But 4 out of 5 ain't bad, as me.
Yedlin and his tea parties.
I forgot about the tea party. Oh, yeah, but first, okay, let's start with the Premier League. So Liverpool 2, Spurs 0. Sadio Mane with both the goals. Sadio Mane with a lot of the pressure. First take on this game, what was the immediate reaction?
I mean, the immediate reaction, I'll give credit to my buddy Trey, who texted me to say, like, we continue to be the Robin Hood of the Premier League in the sense that Liverpool get the points off the big teams, drop points against the smaller teams.
Oh, they redistribute those points to the smaller teams.
Exactly. And I think that's is an accurate statement, but I think you were the one who pointed out that there's a very logical reason why that's the case.
Oh, yeah, because the way Liverpool play, this like gegenpress, high-pressure style that we've talked about a lot, that Klopp has Liverpool doing, it works so much better against teams that are basically willing to play ball with you.
Yeah.
Right? When you go against Spurs, because they're trying to do something sort of similar, they're a bit more open. When you do it against a team down the bottom of the table and they stack all the defenders back, they're not going to let you high-press them, right? Because they're not going to try and play out of the back.
Right.
And they're going to stock their defence when you try to come at them, and then it's harder to play passes through them.
Because or play passes through them, or hit them on the break, or put them under pressure. You can't hit them on
the break if they don't go.
Yeah, or put them under pressure when their back line is pushed 40 yards up, so if you win that ball, you can go straight to goal, as Liverpool did for their second goal. So I think, for all those reasons, it's why you see Liverpool get those results against those better teams and struggle to get results against some of the lower-ranked opposition.
I'm trying to think of analogies, like if, say Liverpool are really good sort of cat burglars. They're really good at breaking into your house. But if you never leave your house, they're not coming in.
Yeah, that's okay. You got there. I was curious how we were going to go, but yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. So let's talk about how Liverpool did get this result then, shall we?
Okay, yeah, so 2 goals. I want to say the first goal, part of it is definitely Sadio Mane outpaces Ben Davies.
Yep.
By a distance.
Yeah, and that's something that I think you pointed out, that no Danny Rose, I believe, with a knee injury. Ben Davies comes in, starts at left back. And I think it was kind of obvious that Liverpool were going to be targeting that side when, straight from kickoff, they kicked it long to Ben Davies.
It's a big, long, like, Hail Mary diagonal ball towards Sadio Mane and Ben Davies.
Yeah.
There's sort of like, we're coming after you, sir.
Yeah, and with that, I think you could see kind of what happens when 2 high-pressure, high-intensity teams go at each other in those first opening minutes. It was pretty sloppy to start. It was long balls back and forth. It was kind of putting people under pressure.
It was high quality sloppy.
Passes. Yeah, exactly. It definitely was. And it was like high risk balls. Like we saw a lot of 40-yard balls played from one side of the field to the other that if they get mishit, they get intercepted and they get goals for the other team. So it was a little bit like chaotic at first, I'd say, but you could definitely see those sort of signs, at least from Liverpool, that they're looking to attack that left side, that they're looking to put Tottenham under pressure quickly, that they're looking to hit on the break as quickly as soon as they get the ball.
And I think the way they do win the ball for the first goal, I know it's Adam Lallana, I think it's Wanyama. I can't remember if it's Wanyama or Dembele. It's a Spurs midfielder who I think is used to having a little more time. Yeah. But Adam Lallana says, no, I'm taking that.
Yeah, and then it's the bing, bing, bing.
Yeah,
and Sadio Mane gets in there.
The Chandler.
Yeah. That's a good way to take it.
That ends with a really great through ball for Sadio Mane to essentially outpace Ben Davies. I think the guy I want to highlight in this is Firmino.
Okay.
He's doing a great Luis Suarez impression. You know what I'm talking about?
What, in terms of
standing 20 yards offside and slowly working his way back, so that sort of Spurs backline is always thinking, what's he doing? What's he doing? They're always aware of him. But then Sadio Mane is coming in the other direction. They essentially cross paths, right? Mane going towards goal and Firmino coming back in the opposite direction. And as they cross is sort of when the ball is played, and that's when Mane has the foot race with Davies.
I feel like you're giving Tottenham too much credit there, because they do that, like, let's freeze it and see if he was offside by chance. Like, they always do that with those type of breakaway goals. I mean, he's onside by a good couple of yards, and so too is Firmino. So I think you're right that maybe Firmino was a bit of a distraction and led Tottenham to not have that kind of unified line the way they might have otherwise. But it was still pretty shabby. That, like, I mean, it's a good 2 yards that he's already created in terms of separation when that ball is being played, and he's still onside, which is strange to see.
Can we talk about the finish as well? Mm-hmm. How deliberate is that Sadio Mane finish, and how much is he just falling over and swings his leg at it?
I mean, it's both, I would say. It's definitely it's a strange one because he takes it inside with his left foot, but then he gets like a little touch on it with his right that makes it bobble, and then as he's sliding, he hits it so it goes up as opposed to down. Mm-hmm. So I think usually you'd expect the
Does that just confuse Hugo Lloris? He's like, this isn't how it normally goes.
Maybe, yeah, because I mean, exactly, because you usually expect that sort of finish to be like in step, aiming for the corners, and instead this one goes high. Yeah. I wonder if maybe he waited, and I think Arlo White or whomever, or Lee Dixon or whomever it was saying that, like, Hugo Lloris did the best he could, that he stayed up as long as he could, and as soon as he dropped it, that's when Mane hit it. But I feel like maybe it was Mane doing a good job of waiting, and then playing that ball over top as best he could.
All right, second goal. Mm-hmm. How much is it just purely Eric Dyer's fault for not whacking that ball clear? I feel like Eric Dyer's the John Stones in this.
Well, I guess if you want to go with that analogy, what I was going to say holds true then. That it also depends on how much he's been screamed at by Mauricio Pochettino not to kick the ball long anymore.
Right.
And I would say, but it's still pretty bad on his part to kind of settle that ball and pick his head up and look around and just assume that he's not going to have 5 Liverpool players sprinting at him at full speed. But it's also, I think, in those situations, a little bit of blame goes to his teammates, because it doesn't seem like he was given any notification that he was about to be dispossessed.
So the obvious shout should be, Mane on.
Yeah, exactly. Terrible. But yes. I mean, and instead there's nothing. To the extent that Mane and Firmino kind of have a little bit of a battle as to who gets to dribble the ball.
Firmino looks like he's about to tackle Mane, right?
Yeah,
he's doing a better job than Ben Davies did on the first goal.
Yeah, it almost seems like they're both switched on into like high intensity, high pressure mode, and it's just like, okay, I'll pressure you now. It's like, oh wait, we're on the same team. My bad.
Well, and can we give Firmino credit here for at least giving up on tackling Mane and instead directing him to square the ball to, I think, Lallana.
It is, yeah.
He gestures out wide,
he's basically saying, here he comes. Ball squared, Lallana shoots, rebound goes to Firmino, who shoots, that's blocked, and it spills to Mane, who volleys it home. And it's a very well-hit volley, because you would expect that if it's like the third bite at the apple, that maybe at that point it's a wide-open goal because everybody's kind of thrown themselves into blocks and trying to prevent that goal from happening.
Yeah.
But in this situation, I mean, he's still got people on the line. He's still got, I think, Lloris back on his feet. And he hits that volley very well into that like kind of top-side netting. It's well done.
So is it really the case that Liverpool are back now? Sadio Mane is back from the Africa Cup of Nations.
I mean,
because I made the case in December that one person wasn't that important to Liverpool's system, but suddenly it all looks like the Liverpool. I won't say the Liverpool of old, the Liverpool of sort of November.
I mean, they did lose with him back in the lineup, so there is that as well. I think your point is more so, your initial point rather, is more so accurate. That it's just against teams that maybe a little bit more open, that give you a little bit room behind.
Yeah,
that's when Liverpool can get those results against teams that are going to sit back, 10 behind the ball, 30 yards from their own goal, and not let Liverpool kind of pass their way through. Mm-hmm. Then they run into problems.
So is there any hope in the title race for teams not named Chelsea FC?
I mean, I've
10 points clear.
I've said since our preview, our midway preview, or our 2017 preview, no, I think Chelsea are going to waltz this.
I don't want to believe you, not because I have anything against Chelsea, just because I want the excitement. Yeah. There are all these teams battling it out, right? Isn't the gap between like second and sixth is like 2 points? It's 50.
3 points, I think, or right? 50 to 48. So yeah, 2 points. Yeah,
depending on what Man City do today. We're recording this before Man City's Monday afternoon, evening game, but it makes it like this really exciting title race. If Chelsea weren't in it, it would be it would be thrilling.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a little more open than I thought, in the sense that I thought the drama at the end of the season would only be about who finishes fourth. And it seems like there could be drama of who finishes second, third, fourth, and fifth, and sixth.
Yeah.
So, at least a little bit of drama, just maybe not where you want it.
Okay. Enough Premier League talk.
Sure.
Because there were Americans in action abroad.
That there were.
Mostly in the Bundesliga, also a little bit in the Championship, and a little bit in the Erste Divisie.
Okay.
Should we start with the Bundesliga, the non-obvious Bundesliga? We're not going to talk heavily about Christian Pulisic because he was bested by Terrence Boyd and Darmstadt. 2-1 win for Darmstadt over Christian Pulisic's Dortmund.
Right, which is important given that when we looked at the table, the bottom 4 sides of the Bundesliga all employ at least one American.
Yeah.
So that's not ideal. So getting results
against... That's more about the how many Americans there are as opposed to how bad their teams are.
Not sure that's true.
Timmy Chandler and Frankfurt are in third, right? Dortmund in fourth.
Christian Pulisic, and then you've got John Brooks and Hertha Berlin.
Yeah.
And then?
Then there's other stuff.
Okay. So, I mean, but
Darmstadt's one of those teams that are turning it around as well, right? Since they bought Terrence Boyd, it seems like they are now looking a bit better.
Sure, I'll give you that.
Let's say they didn't expect to win this game.
No, they definitely did not, but they did, and they did so. I mean, I'm not going to say it's all Terrence Boyd because that would be very much disingenuous, but it is Terrence Boyd who gets that opening goal, and I think was pretty lively. He was helpful in terms of trying to get his teammates to press. We saw that a couple times. He had some words. He
had essentially an argument with Sidney Sam about how much work Sidney Sam should be doing in terms of putting on some pressure.
And to be honest, I still don't know who was right in that situation because Torsten Frings, the Darmstadt coach, was also screaming, but I'm not sure if he was screaming who he was screaming at and who he was agreeing with.
Right.
So it might be that Terrence Boyd was saying, hey, you're supposed to pressure, because that's what ended up happening is Terrence Boyd was yelling at Sam to press up a bit more.
On the right
Sam
wing,
didn't, and so Boyd came across and pressed, and that's when the words were exchanged. But I don't know if that was Boyd doing too much.
Because, when you watch the rest of the game, Darmstadt are essentially sitting off a little bit, right? They're setting the line of pressure at most halfway. They're not going any farther than that.
Yes. So that situation up in the air, but I'll say overall, I mean, we were wondering just how good Terrence Boyd was in the air. He had a very good chance early in the game, like within the first 4 or 5 minutes. That's very well saved by Berkey. Otherwise, Darmstadt are ahead right there. And that's good positioning by him, but we also saw him contesting those long balls and 50-50 balls and winning some challenges. So I felt like he was more impressive than I've seen him be in a long time.
And best of all, he scores the opening goal.
I was going to say,
first goal.
That said, it's not saying that much, given that the last time and most recently I've seen Terrence Boyd on the pitch, he was playing against 13-year-olds.
All these were like double that age, all these players.
Exactly. And he's still able to score.
Yeah, so Sidney Sam pulls off a bit of magic, right? He accelerates through the middle of Dortmund's defence. He plays it out wide.
Gets shoved in the process.
He gets shoved in the process. I think it's Haller. Tries to diagonally cut the ball back. It takes a deflection off a Dortmund defender. Terrence Boyd adjusts just in time, swings, I think, his left foot, smashes it past the Dortmund keeper.
Ooh, smashes is a word.
Propels?
Well, it's a strange goal because when you first see it, it looks like an expertly taken goal that he adjusts his hips, is able to like react to a ball that's got a weird spin on it and put it in the back of the net.
For MLS fans, it looks like an Addy smash, at least maybe on first
that's
take.
fair. And then when you watch the replay, it's still impressive, but not in the way that I would have expected. Because on the replay, it's clear that he actually kind of hits it into the ground, and that's what makes it pop up. And then there's also a deflection that makes it pop up, which is why it goes over the goalkeeper. But again, that ball is very strange because he's kind of trying, Boyd is trying to create a little bit of space, but then has to step even further back, step away towards goal, but towards the center of the pitch, and swing his hips around it just to be able to make the contact that he does make. So it's not as impressive in terms of he gets around it and rockets it home, but I would say the way the technique he employs to score that goal is very impressive.
And you highlighted that thing of he's basically in a crowd of Dortmund defenders, around about the edge of the 6-yard box. He does do that clever striker thing that we love of just taking a couple steps back when everyone else is taking a couple steps forward, which opens up a little bit of space for him, enough for him to score.
Absolutely. And so 1-0 to Darmstadt. It finishes 2-1 on the day.
Yeah.
You know who doesn't get on the score sheet?
Christian Pulisic.
That's correct.
Yeah. So we talked about this before, that maybe Pulisic doesn't statistically have that much of an impact for Dortmund, right?
Yeah.
It's not Pulisic goal, Pulisic assist being racked up. But we did watch him in this game, and he is more of a useful player.
Yeah,
if that's fair.
We've had a couple. I can't remember if it was an email or a tweet, so I apologize. But we had a question about he's playing all the time, but he's not getting
Where's
goals or
the numbers?
assists. Yeah, what does that say about his play? And I think what it says is that that's not what his job is. If you watch this game, he starts on the right side of midfield in a 3-4-3.
Yeah.
He tends to be on that right side. And routinely, even when Dortmund are possessing in the middle and they've got numbers forward, Pulisic is still very much out wide. And I think that's his job, is to spread the field, keep those passing lanes open so that we can kind of pull the defense apart if we need to. His job is not really to cut inside and do a whole bunch of work in creating goals. I think it's to stay wide, occasionally have those nice slaloming runs, which he does pretty well.
Yeah.
But I don't think his number one priority is get a whole bunch of shots and try to score a goal. I think it's help your team set up chances for your team to score goals.
So we shouldn't be worried yet that Pulisic isn't sort of coming in field, dribbling in field and hitting shots from the top of the box and being the sort of American Arjen Robben.
No, I don't think so. I think really only when if and when Thomas Tuchel says something along the lines of, it would be nice if he were able to score more, or like we'd like to see more attacking output from Christian Pulisic, then maybe you can have some pause for concern.
Okay, not until Thomas Tuchel is concerned do we get concerned. Right? We still want Christian Pulisic starting for the US men's national team in March against Honduras, for example.
Yeah, and especially because Thomas Tuchel seems like the kind of guy who's going to let you know if he's upset. He let the official know in this game.
He did, yeah. It looked like he was threatened with one more time and you're out of here, Thomas Tuchel.
One more time and you'll have to leave your bus stop. Yeah.
The Darmstadt dugout was like a tiny bus stop. Right?
I can't figure out if it's like because I don't know if there was a track there. It did seem like the crowd was set off from the pitch a little bit.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's like a forward bench, a forward operating post where the coaches are, and then the players are seated like 10 yards behind them. Either way, it was a little bit of a strange setup.
I think there has to be room for the bus to come through.
Yeah, exactly.
German public transport is so good in Darmstadt it goes through the stadium.
The question is German public transport also very good in Hamburg? See what I've done there?
I did. It was a transition to Hamburg's 3-0 win over Red Bull Leipzig. Sorry, Rasenballsport Leipzig. RB Leipzig. Yeah. Which, again, is a shock, right? Leipzig were and are second in the Bundesliga. They are technically the main title challenger to Bayern Munich right now. And yet, Hamburg, sort of with a new coach, trying to turn things around after a bad start to the season, go to Leipzig, win 3-0 with Bobby Wood as the lone striker. The reason this interested me, the reason we watched large chunks of this game is because we'd had, I want to say, several emails and tweets suggesting that if we do go with a one-striker formation for the US national team against Honduras in March, which we picked our 11, 2 or 3 shows ago, how come we were convinced that Altidore was the only choice for lone forward? How about Bobby Wood as lone forward?
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's a perfectly possible scenario. I think it's mostly just that past being precedent. It has tended to be Josie Altidore up top by himself. I knee-jerk disagreed because I think Altidore offers a lot more back to goal, holding the ball up, laying the ball off than I've ever seen Bobby Wood do for Hamburg. Yeah. Right? So what did this game do did it reinforce that opinion or did it dissuade you of that opinion?
Can I say yes and no if I give a reasoned explanation why?
Sure.
Because you, again, didn't see Bobby Wood back to goal, hold the ball up for Hamburg as a lone striker, right? That wasn't the useful thing that he did. But what he did do was instead offer lots of runs in behind and offer sort of an outlet for when Hamburg did have the occasional attack, because Leipzig had most of the possession, right? He offered like pace down the wings, which maybe Altidore doesn't. So essentially it's a different look as a lone striker. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'll say this. I don't think I would be like really disappointed if it was Bobby Wood up top and Josie Altidore on the bench.
Yeah.
But I think that's really unlikely because I still think that's leaving one of your best players either way on the bench. And that's why I think you are going to see Bobby Wood either deployed wide, that seems less likely, or as a front two. I think that's what you'll see because that's the reality is those two together are two of your best attacking options.
And I'll say this, it's also, for Hamburg, it's an admission that we're not going to have most of the ball. Right. We're going to hope to get something on a fast counter. And Bobby Wood up top on his own is going to try and do that for us. Yeah. Whereas the US at home to Honduras, you've got to expect we've got more of the ball, we're going to try and build something, therefore we're going to play off of our striker and have some possession. Right? So those are two different looks, and it's going to be two strikers anyway.
Yeah, it is. But I'll say in this game, I mean, the first goal comes from a corner, but that corner is forced by Bobby Wood.
Yes.
And that corner comes from, it's a ball over the top that basically he's running onto. He settles, has a person jostling with him, and is able to basically force a really good save. Yeah. That the goalkeeper really doesn't have any business making. Yep. And it's all because of Bobby Wood's technical ability and his overall pace.
Yep. So it's pace and under pressure, so it's strength and its technical ability to bring the ball down and in front of him at the same time. Yeah, it's a great first touch.
Right. And then the second goal, similarly, it comes from a long ball that he basically is able to collect out on the left wing for Hamburg. Yeah. And then kind of run up the defense, cut back inside, dribble, force a corner. That corner gets turned into another corner. That corner gets turned into a goal. Yeah. So indirectly, he's responsible for, or at least very helpful in, the scoring of both of those first two goals.
Yeah. So just to not annoy Hamburg fans, it's Papadopoulos scores the first goal. It's a header from a corner that was won by Bobby Wood when he had that shot saved. Yep. The second one, Bobby Wood, you said it's a corner, then another corner, and it's Wallace. Wallace scores the header.
Not Papadopoulos.
Wallace, one of my guys that I picked as like my most exciting transfers of January 2017. It's not Papadopoulos who celebrates that second goal pretty convincingly until you see the replays.
It's very strange.
He must know what hit his head and what didn't, right?
Yeah, and it did not hit his head. The one replay, it definitely is a strange thing because the first replay, when you think it's maybe him and like, oh, I guess every report of this game got it wrong. It just sort of looked like it's Papadopoulos, and you understand why the announcers might have thought it was.
Yeah.
Then the second replay...
the camera goes straight to him, right?
Yeah. And then
celebrating.
Very
pointing
much
to his muscles again.
Yeah. But he's the one who's he's the one who's celebrating as though he did it. In the second replay, it looks like he heads it off of Wallace. The third replay makes it clear that it's just Wallace who gets ahead to it, yeah?
Can we maybe... we talk about the celebration in the first game as well. Terrence Boyd celebrates by putting his arm in front of his face and showing us the Cyclops eye, and not really celebrating with his teammates, which I felt was kind of an odd look.
I mean, that's, I guess, his trademark celebration.
Yeah.
Do what you will. I mean, it's. I guess it's no different for me than the only difference would be that he covers his eyes, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, is it that different than Daniel Sturridge forcing his dance celebration?
No, I guess not.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just thinking about say Terrence Boyd also yelling at Sydney Sam when he's only just been at that club. It just seems like he's come in and being kind of. I'm the man kind of thing, which I guess is a good thing.
I mean, if you're taking 1 5-second dispute over who should be pressing and then a goal celebration where he's celebrating a tattoo,
I guess that's all my evidence.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, we've seen that. How many times have you seen a striker score and then run away and his teammates try to grab him and tackle him and he just continues shoves them off and keeps running?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean necessarily that you're not a good teammate. In my opinion.
Fair enough.
In my opinion.
All right, you are the expert on reading into celebrations, and if you don't think there's anything there, then I believe you.
Fair.
So to sum up, good performance from Bobby Wood, great goal. Good performance from Terrence Boyd and a goal. Good performance from Bobby Wood, no goals.
Yeah, you thought Bobby Wood scored in this game when we initially went back to watch it.
Yeah, I did. I really did.
Yeah, was there any reason, or you just basically based on the coverage?
I think he scored midweek in the DFB Pokal,
yeah.
And I think I somehow got those games confused and thought that he'd scored against Leipzig. But turns out my spider senses tingling were kind of correct because he had a hand in 2 of the goals.
He did.
We're calling these TSS assists, even though they're not MLS assists or Bundesliga assists.
Why not?
2 TSS assists for Bobby Wood.
Did DeAndre Yedlin get a TSS assist in his game?
He didn't.
No.
But he was part of Newcastle United going to Wolverhampton and winning 1-0.
And are you sad about
right back the whole game?
You sound sad. Are you sad because Wolves lost or because you weren't impressed with DeAndre Yedlin or both?
The first one, because Wolves lost. Yeah, Yedlin I thought was actually very good in a low-key kind of way.
Okay.
And I definitely want to focus more on Yedlin's performance than Wolves losing.
Okay.
If that's all right with
you.
Just emotionally.
Sure.
So for those who didn't see this, which I'm guessing is most people, Yedlin has been getting rave reviews for his performances at right-back in the Championship. Someone called him the best right-back in the Championship.
I think he was on the Team of the Week or the Team of the Month or something like that, yeah.
So watching this game, you can see why he's getting the accolades. It wasn't the Yedlin of bombing forward all the time and sort of miscontrolling balls but occasionally getting crosses in.
Right.
This was a DeAndre Yedlin who stayed back as part of a back four and did a defensive job against Weimann, who is... Austrian international, was a Villa player, is on loan at Wolves. He's got quite a good pedigree. Yedlin handled him really, really well. Every time Weimann ran at him, Yedlin essentially was faster than him and used some physicality to step across him and make sure Weimann couldn't go anywhere. So some good, impressive defending from DeAndre Yedlin.
Yeah. It makes me pause and say, it's tough to evaluate a defender when because you can watch Bobby Wood play up top by himself, you can watch Terrence Boyd play as a striker, and you can watch midfielders and see how much they contribute to defense and attack and linking up the attack and transitioning. But with an outside back or even a center back, it's tough to really watch a game and get a read on whether or not they're performing really well or if they're struggling.
A fullback is even tougher, I think, because sometimes the camera pans upfield, so the whole defence is missing. Sometimes the camera pans up and you can see the left back, but the right back is off screen. So you can spend a lot of time off screen. Luckily, Yedlin's got the highlights to
that helps
to make sure he's very noticeable when he is on screen.
He's got that blondish white hair that really makes him stand out.
Now, you did notice he did lose his man a couple of times, right?
Yeah, there was one. It makes me wonder if maybe he wasn't even supposed to track the player. It was a free kick early in the first half.
Yeah,
and I forget who he's marking. It's
Danny Bart, the Wolves captain and centre back. Yeah,
and Yedlin is standing with him as the free kick is taken, and then Danny, I'm going to call him Danny. Danny runs, and Yedlin just stands, does not move, and again that makes me wonder if maybe that's the kind of Klinsmann-y wait and see if the goalkeeper catches that ball and then he's away because he's lost his man. I'm not sure what exactly that was, but he definitely doesn't track his mark.
So the reason this is important is Bart gets his head to this, heads it down, and Richard Stearman, who is the guy that scored against Liverpool, sort of gets a lunging foot to it and basically should have scored. This should have been a Wolves goal. So I'm going to try not to get too upset about this.
That's good.
But Yedlin could have been at fault for this. The only reason I don't think it's Yedlin's fault is it would be madness to have little DeAndre Yedlin mark big Danny Bart centre-back, right?
Yeah.
Why would you set up that scenario?
Yeah, except the counter to that then is, but then why would you have him...
He's definitely standing next to him.
He's definitely standing next to him. Why would you have that in the first place? And it doesn't look like there's any system in place of, I'm passing him off, he runs here, somebody else picks him up. Because he wins that header in a fairly uncontested fashion.
Yep.
So it gives a little pause for concern only because in the past, and this is why I bring up the point that it's tough to just like evaluate a player based on one performance because you're so much more familiar with everything else you've seen in years past that accumulated knowledge tends to overwhelm that one game.
Yeah,
and so even if Yedlin is really good positionally and keeps a solid back line and helps people get caught offside and does a good defensive job,
he did all those things, by the way.
If there's a few scenarios in which he doesn't track his runner or is slow to step to a person as they play a ball in, it's sort of like, still doing that stuff. And I don't know if that's fair or not, but it's worth mentioning that there were still a few moments that were a little bit not what you want to see from your lockdown defensive right back.
Fair enough. I'll say this though, final thing in defence of DeAndre Yedlin. I remember times when he was first with Seattle in Major League Soccer, and even in Major League Soccer there were times where it was noticeably easy for a left winger to sneak in behind him.
Right.
I mean, no, actually the example I'm thinking of involves Thierry Henry playing left wing, so maybe that's
a little unfair. Yeah.
Right, but he was sort of outwitted by Henry sneaking behind him. Weimann tried that many, many times. And I watched this kind of intently because I wanted Weimann to get in behind him because I wanted Wolves to score and equalise. Right. And Yedlin did not let that happen.
Right.
Anytime they did slip a ball behind DeAndre Yedlin, he was in position enough that he could use his pace to absolutely recover. Right. Not desperately recover, absolutely recover and get to the ball first. So it makes me confident that we'd be fine with Yedlin starting for the US against Honduras in March.
Yeah, I think so. I think if for no other reason than because he's consistently getting minutes at a team that are likely going to be promoted to the Premier League.
May even win the title. Right?
There you go. Yeah. So, I mean, I think he's proving that he belongs there and he's proving that consistency in minutes. So, yeah, I'm obviously okay with him starting.
Plenty more exciting young Americans to talk about. We've got a sort of bumper TSS Scouting Network update with ZLM and all kinds of other Americans. Lots of U20s because the qualifying tournament's coming up. But first, we have a sponsor today, Taylor. Today's sponsor is SeatGeek. SeatGeek, the company that's come along, created an amazing app and website that makes it easier than ever for fans of sports and concerts to get tickets.
Sports and concerts only, though. They've come along, created an app that makes it easier. They do all the price comparison for you by searching multiple ticket venues and sites to ensure that you get the best possible deal.
So I've opened up the SeatGeek app. I went looking for some entertainment. I found the stand-up of...
I went looking for some entertainment. Yeah.
I found the stand-up of Mr. Pete Holmes.
Okay.
So do you remember maybe 3 or 4 shows ago, I made a crack about Pete Holmes' podcast, You Made It Weird. I think it was Grayson Smith who enjoyed that mention. I realised I've been listening to the Pete Holmes podcast for, it's got to be 3 years. Never even thought about seeing his stand-up. Which is weird. I don't know, because normally that's the reason comedians have podcasts, right? Is to promote their stand-up. I was just like, I like this podcast. Yeah. That's good enough for me. I happened to catch his stand-up on HBO. It's called Noises and Faces. Or something stupid.
His new one.
Yeah,
I listened to a little bit of his second most recent one, Nice Try the Devil, which is pretty good.
I think I've decided he might be my favourite stand-up.
Ooh, based on just bold statement.
I saw the second half of an hour-long show, and it was it felt like my sense of humour.
Right.
So I found 3 shows that Pete Holmes is putting on. One's in LA, one's in San Francisco, one's in Grand Rapids, Michigan. None of them near me, but the ticket prices with the $20 rebate could be doable if Pete Holmes comes anywhere near Richmond, Virginia. I'd go as far as DC, maybe Philadelphia.
Does he laugh maniacally at his own jokes in his stand-up special?
He does, but that's what I like. I think I like the fact that he finds his own jokes funny and he's not afraid to giggle about it.
I love on How Did This...
Also, I can see why people hate that.
Well, I love the How Did This Get Made podcast when they do their annual Howdy Awards.
Yeah.
He won the award for most obnoxious Pete Holmes laugh, and it was just a montage of all of the obnoxious Pete Holmes laughs. So that was very impressive. For me, what is very impressive is seeing the U.S. women's national team in person. It's been a while since I've done so, but you did a very good interview with Steph Yang on Friday, and it made me inclined to go see them, and we could do that because they're playing in New Jersey and at RFK for the She Believes Cup.
One of those is closer than the other.
Indeed. The ones in D.C. are on March 7th, the ones in New Jersey on March 4th. The ones in D.C. would be Germany versus England and the United States versus France. So 2 good games there. All of those tickets also available on the SeatGeek app and the SeatGeek website.
And worth the reminder that She Believes has no space in it. It's all one word.
Yep.
She Believes.
Yep.
US Soccer did that, not SeatGeek. SeatGeek are just following the format. I'm still not a fan of words being mashed together.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And so, as you mentioned, there's the rebate. How can our listeners go about getting that rebate, Mr. Grove?
So to get a $20 rebate off a SeatGeek ticket purchase, you download the SeatGeek app. You go to the settings tab and you click add a promo code. You enter the promo code TSS, and then SeatGeek sends you $20 after you make your first ticket purchase. So download the SeatGeek app and enter promo code TSS today.
There we are. Thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring this show. Thank you to Daryl Grove for just being Daryl Grove. And thank you to the many members of the Scouting Network who sent in many different reports.
Yeah, we have lots today.
We sure do.
I'm excited about all of them, but where do you want to start? 'Cause I've got a 2-sided printout here. I don't know which side you want to start with.
Let's start with Brian Wolf on page 1.
With the big news.
Yes, scouting Gideon Zelalem, the 20-year-old American midfielder for VVV. We've learned that by watching the highlights of this game. Brian says Zelalem came on in the 65th minute of VVV's game and scored in the 89th minute. The goal was instrumental in seeing the Eredivisie leaders onto a 7-0 victory. They were only 6-0 up at the time.
Oh, he sealed the deal then.
Yeah. As for the goal itself, Brian says it was a fine tap-in from 10 meters out. Brian adds that there are rumors out there that 1, Zelalem signed an extension with Arsenal prior to being loaned out to the Dutch side, and 2, Gideon could get another loan this summer, this time to Borussia Mönchengladbach.
Interesting. I would maybe take issue with the tap in from 10 meters.
I agree,
because we sort of managed to watch the highlights of this game. And it's more of a strike.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's a run-on one-time finish with 2 players in front of him, 2 or 3 players in front of him. Yeah.
It's also a nice run as well.
Yep.
He makes like that classic sort of, what would you call it, like the zigzag, not a zigzag, like he goes out and back in, diagonal, like out and back in run to sort of lose his marker, get in front of his marker, so he's like in front of goal. That ball could have been played in front of him to finish first time. Instead, he gets the rebound and scores.
You know what would make it more exciting, though?
What's that?
Is if it wasn't the 7th goal in a 7-0 rout of a second division Dutch side.
Yeah, so was it Leander Schalakens who, when Zelalem was loaned to VVV, said, oh, that's disappointing because of the standard of that division. I was thinking, really? But then, watching Helmond and their 7-0 defeat. I mean, literally the first goal is the goalkeeper from Helmond passes it to a defender. Defender tries to pass it back, and the ball is intercepted.
Well, it's basically he doesn't pass it back enough, so I believe the goalkeeper rushes out, gets a foot to it, but kicks it straight into a VVV player, and it goes off the VVV player in it.
It's a tackle goal.
It's not great,
right?
Not great.
Yeah.
And I think your other more valid point, not that one wasn't valid, but the one that really made me be like, oh no, is that what team is second in the Dutch second division right now?
Young Ajax.
Yeah, Ajax's B team. Mm-hmm. So, that then makes you wonder, would he be better playing for Arsenal's Premier League 2 side, for example? I
think the standard would definitely be better. If such a thing
exists. I don't know if they were one of the ones that chose to be in the Premier League 2.
Here's the thing. Helmond and the disaster that we saw, they were 10th in the Eredivisie.
Oh, boy.
That's not even the worst team in there.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Well, let's move...
It makes me think, and even if he was going to stay with VVV when they go to the actual Eredivisie next year, that would be something. But if he's going to go to Mönchengladbach, this is kind of, I don't want to say a wasted year because we haven't had a Zelalem highlight for ages, so I'm glad we've got this one.
Yeah. So it leads me to wonder many, many different things, all of which will take too long to get to on this show. So instead, let's just move on to the next report.
All right. Next up is Alex Barone and Beth Jali, both scouting Kylian Mbappé, the 18-year-old striker for Monaco. I've been seeing his name in the headlines lately. Alex and Beth say Mbappé scored his first Ligue 1 hat-trick on Saturday in Monaco's 5-0 win versus Metz. All three were well taken and help explain the rumours that Arsene Wenger and Arsenal are heavily interested in the youngster. That's the headlines I've been seeing.
There it is.
So far, I read too many English papers. So far this season, Mbappe has been played wide or as a third-choice striker in Monaco's 4-4-2 behind Germain and the rejuvenated Radamel Falcao.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like basically he's the third choice, but is essentially starting every couple games. I think he started their last two because of injuries and, giving people rests. Up next, we've got James Jones, scouting Andrew Carlton. I was so excited to talk about Andrew Carlton, I didn't even get James's name right. Andrew Carlton is the 16-year-old midfielder for Atlanta United. United played their first game on Saturday, and Carlton definitely impressed. He came on at halftime as a right winger with Atlanta ahead of Chattanooga FC 2-0. He made some smart plays, got an MLS assist, and scored his first goal for the club. Carlton's performance has to be taken with a, quote, with a large, it was an out-of-season 4th Division club, grain of salt, but it was still something exciting to watch. If he plays like that in the upcoming Carolina Challenge Cup, it will be tough to keep him out of the regular squad, says James.
There were also some great highlights, little just snippets of skill from Andrew Carlton that we saw, like quick 1-2s around players, and then those killer through balls that he plays. I'm starting to think of this as the key feature of Andrew Carlton is that he plays those passes that bend around defenders and in front of strikers.
Yeah. Now, the Gospel of Wikipedia says that he is still a Charleston Battery player on loan from Atlanta.
That's not true, because I just watched him play for Atlanta.
Exactly. But so it does make me wonder if maybe there will be some consideration with this Carolina Challenge Cup of whether or not he plays for the Battery this season or stays with Atlanta. I guess we'll just have to stay tuned and continue to check our inbox for emails from James.
Congratulations to Atlanta United fans, by the way. I said there's a lot of excitement about the team just with this first pre-season friendly.
Yeah.
It seems like there's something building there.
I would say so.
It's going to explode in March. Chris Bernhardt is scouting Tammy Abraham, the 19-year-old forward for Bristol City on loan from Chelsea.
Yeah.
Chris says Abraham scored a brace this past weekend in a 3-3 draw with Derby County. It sounds like a good game. He has now scored 18 goals this season and holds the new record for most goals scored by a teenager in the Championship. So that's the good news. You know what comes after the good news? The bad news is that Tammy, who does not have a driver's licence, recently crashed his Mercedes at the training ground. That seems to be a metaphor for Bristol City's season, as they have struggled to win and are perilously close to the relegation zone.
Yeah, not ideal. Not ideal across the board there. Although ideal to have set the record for most goals by a teenager. So I guess that is ideal. It's 50-50 there. Up next, a report from Gillian Avalon scouting Ronan Hale, the 18-year-old Irish striker for Birmingham City. Baby Ronan, as Gillian calls him, was called up by the Republic of Ireland U19s for friendlies against Portugal and Slovakia. The Portugal game has already happened and ended in a 1-0 victory for Ireland. More importantly is that in that game, Hale played 85 minutes up top and scored the only goal. He created a few other chances and will, as a result, likely start against Slovakia on Valentine's Day.
Oh, bad news for his girlfriend, I guess.
Yeah, probably.
Although Valentine's Day is a commercial invention. All right, we got some quick hits coming up.
It's Valentine's Day and birthdays, as Ron Swanson says.
Quick hits. Michael Fisk is scouting Andreas Christensen, 20-year-old Danish centre-back for Gladbach. Andreas got the full 90 in Gladbach's 2-0 cup win against Greuther Fürth. And in this weekend's 1-0 win over Werder Bremen. Gladbach are now 9th in the table on 26 points, just 6 points behind the European spots.
Up next, John Adams scouting Sean Harrison, the 19-year-old forward for Yeovil Town, on loan from Tottenham, I do believe. Harrison started and played the full 90 in Yeovil Town's 5-2 defeat away to Luton Town in the EFL Trophy quarterfinals. Sean didn't make it onto the score sheet, but he was caught offside twice and led the team in fouls committed. Oof, says John.
Things can only get better. DJ Ringus is scouting Levi Garcia, the 19-year-old Trinidadian left winger for RZ. Levi started in RZ's 4-2 loss to PSV and was an unused sub in a 2-1 win over Heerenveen. It seems that he is now back with the senior RZ team, particularly since the TNT U20 roster has been announced and Garcia was not in the squad. More on U20 soccer coming very, very soon.
Yep. Next, Kate Bochenek scouting Timothy Fosu-Mensah, the 19-year-old Dutch defensive midfielder, defender for Manchester United. Fosu-Mensah stayed with United, although there were rumors that he would move away in January, and featured in their FA Cup victory over Wigan. He had a mixed bag of a game and came off with an injury, so not sure what to make of his immediate future for Timothy Fosu-Mensah.
All right, final quick hit. Mike and Sean Clarkin are scouting Jose Villarreal, the 23-year-old forward for the LA Galaxy. Jose did not start in LA's pre-season friendly against Tijuana, but was one of the 11 halftime changes by Kurt Analfo. Pre-season.
Yep.
He went on to get LA's only goal in a 1-1 draw with Los Cholos and did get on the score sheet in a 1-1 draw.
In that 1-1 draw. Sorry, that's my rating being very poor. I apologize.
And
then, as you mentioned...
he definitely scored, right?
Yes, definitely. And then, as you mentioned, it's time for some U20 updates.
Yes, so Tab Ramos has named his roster, right?
Yep.
The U20s are going to do the World Cup qualifying. It's a CONCACAF tournament in Costa Rica. It starts this Saturday. The US play this Saturday against Panama. It is on Univision.
Yep, okay, nicely done. I'm going to do the first two. Jim Brochar scouting Jonathan Klinsmann, the 19-year-old goalkeeper for UC Berkeley. He made the squad, says Jim, essentially. He's one of two goalkeepers alongside Georgetown's JT Marcinowski. Similarly, Russell Finley emails to say that Eric Palmer-Brown, the 19-year-old defender for Sporting KC, no longer of Porto B, now back with Sporting, it seems, was named as a central defender and captain of the U20s in the CONCACAF Championships.
Can we backtrack to Jonathan Klinsmann a second?
Sure.
The fact that Jurgen is no longer in the employ of US Soccer, he may still be on the payroll because I think he's getting some,
a little bit of severance.
Does this mean Jonathan Klinsmann is now legit, right? Because there was like an air of nepotism, right? Now there's no reason to appease Klinsmann. He's just he's on the U20 roster.
Yeah, there we go.
We'll see him on Saturday, maybe.
We'll see him on Saturday, maybe.
Two more guys we'll see on Saturday, or somewhere maybe. Ben Henderson is scouting Luca Della Torre, the 18-year-old midfielder for Fulham. LDLT, as Ben calls him, made his first team debut for Fulham in the EFL Cup back in August. I didn't know that. But has yet to make a league appearance. He's been a consistent starter in central midfield for Fulham's Premier League 2 squad and was just called up to the 20-man squad for the upcoming U20 World Cup qualifiers. His chances of breaking into the Fulham first team this year are slim, so it'll be good for him to suit up for the US in Costa Rica.
All right. Final report comes from Brendan Massar, scouting Marlon Fossey. He's an 18-year-old who Brendan says remains Fulham's first-choice right-back for their Premier League 2 Division 2 side.
Yeah, the second part of that sentence is important.
Yeah, a little bit. He tends to get the full 90 minutes, is eager to attack from the wing, and has 1 assist on the season, most notably the dual national. He's US and England eligibility. He's been named to the U20 squad, so Brendan adds that picking him out during games is easy because he has a David Luiz-style haircut. All very important information, courtesy of Brendan. Thank you for that.
Is this a thing that US right-backs have to have a flashy haircut?
It seems that way.
Have to be easily identifiable.
It's part of the rules, yeah.
So we're going to have a bit more of a preview of this U20 team as they go into World Cup qualifying this weekend later this week. Maybe Friday's show will get a little in-depth on the U20s.
Sounds good to me.
What else we got on tap this week, Taylor? We're going to do the...
terminology?
Yeah, we put the call out for any soccer phrases or terminology that you need explaining. We're going to do that Tuesday. We're going to review Bayern v Arsenal Champions League action on Wednesday. We're going to do listener questions on Thursday, and we're going to preview the U20s on Friday. And there may be some other crazy stuff happens in between. Maybe they'll announce a 200-team World Cup.
Especially now that you've announced what we're going to be doing, it seems like we're destined to have chaos ensue.
Well, Bruce Arena's writing, release US roster very early.
Yeah. I was listening to the Pod Save America guys, and they were talking about how news always breaks while they're recording, and I was like, join the club, guys.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, we're old hands at this. If you would like to join the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network, you won't only get a young, exciting player to scout, you will be helping us make the Total Soccer Show. You go to totalsoccershow.com/subscribe, and all the information will be there. Also, we've had some people ask, if they can't contribute financially, is there a way they can help support the show? And it turns out there kind of is, right?
Okay, what you got?
Well, one thing that people could do is support our sponsors in a non-commercial way. You could, for example, download the SeatGeek app and enter that promo code TSS. You don't have to go and buy any tickets necessarily, but the fact that you've downloaded the SeatGeek app, SeatGeek are happy about that, and the fact that TSS is in there, we get the credit for that, right? So you'll be helping the show by doing that. That's one example.
That seems more manageable. I was a little concerned when you said in a non-commercial way that it was going to be like, tattoo it on your forehead. It'd be very helpful.
Do that. Send us a photo.
Don't do that. It's a bit much. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Please don't do that.
You regret that because one day we'll change the logo.
Yeah, then you're in trouble. But then it just shows how long you've been committed to the program.
You feel like TSS old school.
Yeah, exactly. I was there with logo number 3.
All right, Taylor, shall we wrap it up today?
Sounds good to me.
All right, well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening. We, of course, always appreciate it, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.
We will.